Proverbs 13. Let's look at verse 10, and we'll read verse 10 out loud together. Proverbs 13th chapter, and we'll look here at the 10th verse. Ready, read. Only by pride cometh contention, but with a well-advised is wisdom. Only by pride cometh contention. Man, that is just... In other words, he says, whenever you find contention, pride is at the root. Wherever you find people in conflict, at the root of it is pride. Well, now, you know, Pastor, I don't know if I agree with that. Wait a minute, hold up. Whenever the Word of God challenges the way you think, you don't try to change the Word to match how you think. You change how you think to match the Word. And here he's telling you that when you find yourself in contention, that there's pride at the root. Now, somebody say, well, yeah, it may not, but it's not on my side, though, because I know I'm right. You sound right. The New Century Version says it this way. It says, pride only leads to arguments. Pride only leads to arguments. New Century, pride only leads to arguments. The New Living says, pride leads to conflict. Pride leads to conflict. And I like this in the NIV. It says pride breeds quarrels. And I like the word breed because it means that they're actually producing. They're giving birth. You know, you're talking about, you know, breeding emu or whatever they breed. Alpaca.
Dogs.
Dogs. People breed dogs. I breed alpaca. You breed dogs if you want to. Pride causes contention. And I believe that one of the greatest areas of pride comes in our communication style. That pride, and we talked about this keeps coming up. It was in our leadership meeting this past Saturday. But pride is an unreasonable estimation of your own importance. An unreasonable estimation of your own importance. It's this unreasonable estimation of your own superiority over others, that you think your perspective is higher, the way you see it is more noble, the way you feel about it, the way you grasp it is superior. That's pride, and out of that pride comes contention. And Connie and I have noticed that, especially in key relationships, between two born-again people that fear the Lord, sometimes the most sincere hearts that have a desire to please God can also be in the middle of a relationship full of contention. You can have both people, mom and daughter, father and son, mom and son, father and daughter, brother and sister, husband and wife, whatever, and both people love God, both people are committed to God, both people fear the Lord, both people are trying to do the Word, and yet they'll find themselves constantly in a conflict, constantly in a state of contention. And they often don't understand why. They shake their own heads wondering, why does this go on? And I believe it's a trap. And part of the reason I believe it's a trap is that when we run into what we call communication challenges or communication problems, we almost park there. It's almost like this thing of irreconcilable differences. In other words, that's the magical wall that nobody can work past. And we'll just say things like, well, we just have communication issues. But if you're going to live and experience the life of God, you don't settle with, well, we just have communication issues. You can't ever be content in dysfunction. You got to keep believing for the best. You got to keep reaching for the manifestation of the Word. And we just have communication issues, isn't it? Isn't it? We have communication issues. Okay, that may be where we are, but that is not where we're going to decide to put it in park for the rest of our lives. And so Connie and I have been really meditating on this and praying on this and just talking this through. And we have said for a period in our marriage, we have communication problems. And there's simple things like, I'm working on a list of top 10 ways you know you have communication issues. One of them is if you constantly wish you had a tape recorder to play back what the person has said. That's a sign, It's like, man, you know what? I just need a tape recorder to play back what you just said. Oh, I wish I had a tape recorder, That's a sign that you have a problem. When in your conversations you say, I don't know what you want me to say, that's a sign you have communication problems. When you say things like, just tell me what to say, that's a sign you have communication problems. Sorry, got a little too personal too quick, I suppose. Oh. You up too high?
I don't know.
Do you need to take your blouse off? Okay, sorry. That's when we practice it, I was so much more relaxed. It helps me relax when we practice.
Okay.
Did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
And let me tell you where God convicted convicted Connie and I. And I mean this, was on this word right here. We stopped declaring over our relationship. We have communication problems. We took that off our mouth. It's what Connie said Sunday. Lord, who this is this? Okay. It's what Connie said Sunday. Stop calling the dog when you want the cat. I think it's that old Charles Capps. Stop calling the dog. If the dog is at your feet, don't say, here, Scruffy. If you don't want Scruffy, stop saying, here, Scruffy, here, Scruffy. Come on, Scruffy, here, Scruffy. You already have that. You have to call, here, kitty, kitty, kitty. You want to call into your life what you desire. Now remember, like Connie said this Sunday, this is not denial. We don't have communication issues. That's not the word. The word doesn't call things that are as though they are not. It calls things that are not as though they are. And we decided, since we already had the cat at our feet, that we weren't going to get in the heat of battle and say, well, this is just the communication issues that we constantly have. The Bible says that your tongue is like the rudder of a ship. And the direction you point that rudder determines the direction that ship goes. And so we decided, since we already had the cat at our feet, we knew we already had issues, that we were going to point the ship in another direction. And we just ceased to declare we have communication issues. Now, this is in a marital context, but I want you to even think about it in any relationship. If it's with your mom or your dad or your son or your daughter, when you find that you have these challenges talking, and sometimes it's between two born-again people. Your mom loves God, she goes to different church, you go to church, you're on fire, she's on fire. But man, Easter Sunday was drama. I mean, they could have filmed a Springer episode, and you go and you feel convicted and you feel, man, why did it have to happen that way, da-da-da? Because it's not heart that's the issue. It's trying to communicate. And that's really what we do. That's how we interact as human beings, is we communicate. That's our only bridge. There's physical, verbal, nonverbal, emotional. There's all these forms of communication. And whatever it is, I throw out a line and she throws out a line, and we hit and miss. I thought I was throwing out something very harmful. It hit her in the eye. She thought she was saying something very innocent, and man, it caught me right on the lip. Why'd you do that? And all I was trying to do was reach out. And so this is where I see that we get boxed into a corner and we settle for less than God's best in a key area. Spiritual prosperity is number one, but relationship prosperity is number two. You want to prosper in your relationship with God, then you want to prosper in your relationship with people. And I find a lot of people that they really give up on their relationship with people, and they just say, I'm going all in on my relationship with God. But the Bible says, how can you say you love God who you don't see, but not love your brother who you do see? So this idea, well, God understands me. Yeah, but we don't want to settle for that. We want to reach for God's best, which usually requires a transformation of ourselves. Taking up the cross, denying ourselves, and becoming not a different us, but a better version of the us God made us to be. Amen. You got anything on that?
Keep going.
Okay, let's go to James chapter 1. Book of Jimmy. James chapter 1. Now, I'm getting ready to lay something on you here in a minute, and we'll see. It was cool to me. James chapter 1. And we'll read verse 19 out loud together. James chapter 1, and we'll look at verse 19 in the King James, then we'll look at it in the Amplified. Ready? Let's read verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Verse 20. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Now, look at this. This is a command from God's Word into your life on your communication style. We think God is only interested in these deep spiritual areas, but here He's talking to us about how we communicate with one another. And He says, I want you to be more effective at hearing and less concerned with talking. Let every man be swift to hear. That means be eager and run to listen, reach to understand. Then slow to speak. That means let what comes out of your mouth be accurate and let it be intentional. The Amplified Bible of verse 19 and 20 says this. Understand this on your screens here, my beloved brethren. Let every man be quick to hear, a ready listener, slow to speak, slow to take offense, and to get angry. Verse 20. For man's anger does not promote the righteousness God wishes and requires. Notice the fallout from being a poor hearer and a poor talker, anger. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. But I'm telling you, a lot of times we make a beeline to wrath because we're not effectively talking and listening. Now, got something
I was just going to say, it's interesting because I've heard people say before that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should do twice as much listening as you are talking. And this is an area that I'm growing in the sense of sometimes I would just want to speak and say something and not even be sure of the accuracy. Mike and I will be having a conversation, and I'll think I know what he's going to say next or what he, is talking about, and I will talk too quickly before he finishes talking, and I'm totally on the wrong track. And so this listening thing is so important because if you just pause and listen, wait till everything is said, then go forward and communicate and respond versus jumping in the middle. And that's, like I said, an area where I'm growing in, and I see sometimes I try to get ahead of him, but it's just like, just pause, wait, hear it all out, and then think before you speak.
This is such a vital area because what she's talking about, I'll say it's almost universal in counseling. People complain about their inability to effectively communicate. And what I was believing God for tonight in this session, in the next session, and the ones that we have coming after the next couple of sessions, was to get beyond, we need to communicate good. This series that we're starting tonight is not about how to treat each other or how to treat people. This is about the practical skills needed to become an effective communicator, and it starts with recognizing characteristics of ineffective communicators. And Connie did a women's Bible study, morning Bible study, Women Around the Word, a couple weeks ago, and she let something come out about communication or whatever. It wasn't your point, but it was a side point. And we were immediately seen by elders and leaders and other people afterwards saying, man, you've got to talk about that, because what you just described, that is me and my husband. That is me and my wife. That is us right there. And Connie was out of town last week, and I was kind of a bachelor for a couple days. And I was out with some friends, and I began to describe some of what we're going to talk about. And the funniest thing about it is the way other people look at each other I said, yeah, well, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. And the way the husband looks over across the wife and the way the wife looks back over across the husband. And it was profound. It was like I couldn't have planned it any better. I said, well, you know, sometimes this and sometimes that. And I want to say this, there are gender generalities in what I'm getting ready to say. That sometimes men generally operate this way or women generally operate this way, but there's not a universally applicable gender assignment or gender allocation. Yeah, it's not like this is what women do and this is what men do. You'll see that in the big buckets, sometimes they're male or female, but as you get to the middle, there's some crossover. So what I want you to do is not just think of this in terms of husband and wife or mother or daughter or father or son or whatever it is. I want you to think of it in terms of that these are weak styles of communication that you're going to have to be a swifter hearer and a slower talker to work through, because God's Word wants to reach into even the way you speak to each other. And again, please understand, this series is not about the tone in which you speak to each other, and you have to speak nice, and you have to be full of love. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that frustrate people to the highest levels and break down communication. And I'm convinced that if you can break down communication, you can break down a relationship. Because once people cease to communicate, they're not even really in a relationship anymore. I used to do rock climbing many years ago, and we'd rappel waterfalls and traverse gorges and different things like that, and do some climbing. And I learned this about the ropes. When you carry these ropes, and we'd be carrying them up the mountains, and there'd be somebody dragging the rope in the dirt. And they said, man, you can't let that rope touch the dirt, because the dirt gets in the fibers and starts to wear them down, and it'll make the rope brittle. And that's the last thing you need when you're 300 feet in the air is a brittle rope. And it's like, it still looks like a rope, but if the fibers have been worn down. That's good. And that's what this communication thing is. Connie and I are married, but really how married we are, it's not determined by our rings or our license. It's determined by the health of our communication. Mm-hmm. See, we're 100% legally married, 100% roommates, 100% co-checking account sharers, 100% bed sharers. We're 100% co-parents. But how married are we? How much in a relationship we are? Well, we're about 50%. Why? Because if we don't feel like we're accurately transmitting and accurately receiving, eventually it brings the whole relationship into question. Mm-hmm. And you got to watch out, because when adultery and divorce, etc., oftentimes will come upon the heels of a frustrated communicator, emotionally, physically, sexually, verbally, non-verbally. Frustrated communicator finally connects with someone and finds that in this relationship I can transfer ideals. But the truth of the matter is that's typically in the honeymoon period, because the initial creation of relationships is a reduction of self-boundaries. Mm-hmm. That when I met Connie, I packed up all my fences and said, I ain't got no fences. And she said, no way, I don't have any fences either. And we just... But then after a while, you start to build your fences back up, and now we get to see whether or not you can communicate across your ego boundaries, whereas before you had a total reduction of them. And so even when somebody meets somebody that they feel they're connecting with, they're really only connecting with them because for the time they have withdrawn their fences. Mm-hmm. Because I promise you, you may get another spouse. See, here's the thing. You get another spouse and you say, well, you're so much better. That's partially true. A, because you pick a little better, generally. B, you're a little smarter, and so you've got more realistic expectations. My mother called me the week of my marriage. She said, would you like to make this marriage to Connie your first or your second one? I said, well, it's my first one. You know that. She said, no, how do you want to make it, your first or your second one? I said, well, I want it to be my first one. She said, no, you don't. You want it to be your second one. I said, why? She said, because in your second one, you learn about all the garbage you fight over in your first one didn't even matter. That the towel on the floor and the socks on the ground and all that mess doesn't even matter. And she said, you need to go in this with realistic expectation of two people have something great that they believe in, and if they work toward it, it's going to be awesome, and not try to marry and then project on that other person the ideal. But here's what ends up happening now. Here's what ends up happening. So you've got a new spouse. You picked a little better choice. Number two, you got a little better sense of reality, that it's not all Ozzie and Harriet, and, oh yeah, you don't know how to flush the toilet either. Okay, well, my last one didn't, but so maybe it was me. And then finally, listen, you've also learned. You're a little better than you were before. And so this makes this other one seem so awesome, and maybe they are. The first guy may have been an idiot, and I'm going to give you that on that. I'm just going to take it on face value. He's an idiot. But you also have to realize that when you move on, you might not have the same issues, but there's nobody that has nothing to navigate through. Because people may put their fences in different places than your previous spouse or previous relationship, but they do have fences somewhere. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, now, let's talk about these styles of ineffective communication. I got 12 of them. We won't get them all tonight, but we'll get this series. Number one is the discovery talker. The discovery talker. Here's a description of a discovery talker. Speaks in sentence fragments. That are interrupted by real-time thoughts. Discovery talkers often answer their own question after they've begun to speak. Discovery talker speaks in sentence fragments that are interrupted by real-time thoughts. In other words, while they're talking, they're still thinking out what they're saying. So they don't complete a sentence. There's no period. There's just these ellipses, this dot, dot, dot that goes on. Discovery talkers don't respect the fact that when they speak, they call the room to attention. And then abort the attention of the room. Discovery talkers don't respect that when they speak, they call the room to the attention and then abort the attention of the room. Discovery talkers speak, then go into solving mode. Discovery talkers speak, then they go into solving mode. While they're in solving mode, one of two things happens. Number one, they leave the whole room to wait on them. They leave the whole room to wait on them. Or two, they neglect the fact that the people present may have information relevant to what they're trying to discover. The discovery talker speaks, then goes into solving mode, and number one, they leave the rest of the room to wait on them, or B, they neglect the fact that the people present may have information relevant to what they're trying to discover. A discovery talker says things like this. Now I'm going to say you what they say and then tell you what's in their mind. They say, hey, this Friday I was thinking about... Now, when they said, oh, what went in their mind is, I can't do it Friday. I've got that meeting at 2 o'clock. But when they said, hey, this Friday I'm thinking about, the whole room, in courtesy, turns to pay attention to the person that's spoken. But they've now aborted that attention and are now on this internal quest of, well, that's not going to work. I wonder if I could do this. That's probably not going to do that either. This and that. And everybody's like, waiting. Or a discovery talker says, yeah, I was thinking about this Friday. We could, oh, no, there's something. And in the room, We know that this Friday we have a 2 o'clock appointment to look at a house. I know this information. But if Connie's a discovery talker, she'll lock the whole room down. Yeah, this Friday I was thinking about maybe we could, oh no. And in her mind she's going, I had something to do. What was it I had something to do? There was something to do. Not even giving any reference to the fact that I'm aware of what we have. And she won't say, this is not her, but I'm just saying, the discovery talker won't say, what do we have to do Friday? And then let me relieve her mental pain. We have that house showing at 2 o'clock. That's what it is. Discovery talkers don't do that. They say, hey, this Friday. No. There's something we're supposed to do. Remember, the whole room is in pause mode. Everybody has stopped. While you try to uncover your calendar, go through your thing, what was it? There was something. And in the room is someone present that has it at the forefront of their thinking. And they're like, it's on the tip of my tongue. What's on the tip of your tongue? What I'm processing that I've only given you one piece of, that I've not let the rest of the world know. But I kindly thank everybody for stopping what they were doing while I issued my fragment that I hadn't really thought through before I issued my fragment. We had this happen with Elder Z. I guess it was Tuesday or whatever, yesterday. We were looking for something in accounting. Mm-hmm. I had an interaction with one person from accounting. Connie did not know I had that interaction with a person from accounting, so went to Z and said, Z, can I get those documents? Elder Z went to get the documents and said, they're gone. I walked up, and Connie and Z are in the middle of this conversation. And Z says, well, I don't understand, they were, where? Let me see if they were, I said, what? They were, hang on, let me ask Michelle. Wait, no, what are we doing? Well, let me just ask Michelle. I may have piece of information. If you'll finish the sentence, I may solve the mystery. Oh, the document's right here. I already talked to Michelle this morning. She gave them to me. Oh, but her and Connie were getting ready to go on a 6-mile journey to go find out something that somebody present in the room knew, but I didn't know I knew because I got, let me see, and if there's a, did you, let me call, and maybe we should, I don't know, I thought she, and they were on their way, going to find something. I was like, where are y'all going? No, we had the thing. What thing? The document. What just finish, tell me what it is, because I may not have it now. If you get it out, I say, I didn't know. Well, we should have told you. Okay, fine, but you don't know, I don't know. And you're more willing to commit to discover what you want to discover and may not need a mystery. I may already know. But if you're stuffed on the end of the sentence, a period or a question or an exclamation point, it just has these dots at the end, we all have to be psychic to figure out what it was you were just getting ready to say. Anything you want to say? Okay. Number 2, the partial talker. The partial talker.
Okay.
The partial talker considers their internal monologue as part of the conversation. The partial talker considers their internal monologue as part of the conversation. The partial talker considers their internal monologue as part of the conversation, not realizing that the unspoken part is usually the most important part. The partial talker relies on internal monologue as part of the conversation. But they don't realize that this internal part, the unspoken part, is usually the most important part of what's being said. Here's a partial talker. Partial talker says, so I was like, and then they were, so I was, and it was just fine. And nobody knows what the heck you're talking about. Now, that's a comical way, but let me give you real ones. Well, I was thinking that when we go out of town, we could, well, it depends on if we're going to, and then. I don't know who it was. I don't want to know. And I'm telling you, and this is generically female. I've noticed that Connie will have, not universally, just generally, Connie will have all these parts of the sentence that she is convinced she said out loud. That they never came out. It's just that she started off in her brain, uttered a few words out of her mouth, and continued in her brain, but I didn't. And there's a lot of if statements, but no then. She'll say, well, I was thinking if we went ahead and dropped them off at your parents. Yeah, so we could pack. No, say, well, if we dropped them off at my parents, what? Well, yeah, I was saying if we dropped them off. I know that's what you said, but I'm saying if we dropped them off, there's a comma there. If we drop them off at your parents, there's a comma, and then the word then. And it's not if, comma, then, period. It's if, comma, then, and then that little hanging part. When we go to Dallas, we could, well, that depends on, but I think it's nice. It was just what I was thinking. Anything on this one?
I'm glad I could be such a help to everyone.
No, wait, I'm an equal opportunity in here, I promise you.
Trust me.
Okay. Okay. Number 3. Number 3 is the wolf crier. The wolf crier. Wolf criers make emotionally engaging declarations. Wolf criers make emotionally engaging declarations with delayed, comma, corrected, comma. Well, it should be this, with delayed follow-up, corrected follow-up, or no follow-up at all. The wolf crier makes an emotionally engaging declaration with delayed follow-up, corrected follow-up, or no follow-up at all. Wolf crier makes an emotionally engaging declaration with delayed follow-up, corrected follow-up, or no follow-up at all. Here's a wolf crier. A wolf crier opens a letter and says, cool. What? What do you mean what? You just said cool. What's cool? Oh, no, nothing. It's a... Well, don't say nothing then if it's not. A wolf crier says, opens an email and says, wow. A wolf crier reads a newspaper and goes, oh, no, they didn't. And then a 10 count. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, never mind. Wolf criers are the worst on the phone. Not respecting that they hold half of the conversation in total secrecy. Wolf criers do this. They went to the emergency room? Oh, was it serious? And the other people in the room, they need something at that point. You can't you can't lock any person emotionally and just leave them out there, because they're out there. They're raw, exposed. You don't know what, you don't know where, you don't know how. And then it's like you wait, and you say, what's going on? And then when it's over, it's like, oh yeah, they're coming on Sunday. What are you talking about? They were coming on Sunday. What were they saying about the emergency room? Oh, no, a neighbor fell on the thing, and it's this kid that said, no, he's fine, it's fine. Wolf criers don't understand that when they speak, see, here's the thing, we want attention when we speak, but we don't understand the danger of engaging people's emotions and then withdrawing. Wolf criers open up bills and go, you have got to be kidding me. I cannot. These people make me so upset that I can't. Oh, no, wait. Okay, so that was a previous month. Okay, all right. And they don't respect that when you just shot everybody's blood pressure up now. Because you think Sprint done did it again. I'm telling you, these people, I'm just telling you, and it's like they don't finish all the facts. They just lock in emotionally. And remember, they're discovering. They read the first line. They read the first line and they go, oh, no, what? Oh, okay. But here's the thing. Do you have something?
Go for it.
Okay, sorry. The wolf crier justifies what they do by saying, well, I'm just getting more information, or I'm gaining research, without respecting that loved ones often have an emotional investment in the content. They'll say something, and the thing, they'll be on the phone or read an email, or newspaper, or watch TV and say, oh, and not realizing that the people that hear that care, if nothing else, they care about what affects the person. And here's the standoff. The standoff is this. Sometimes the wolf crier will make a statement that they want to be responded to. But the townsfolk know not to pay attention to the statement because a conclusion is coming, a correction is coming, or it may not even be important. See, when you've cried wolf enough, whoa, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Well, the first 20 times you say, oh my gosh, that's terrible, the person says, what is it? Wow, that's da-da-da. But after your 10th time, I cannot believe they did that. Oh, no, they didn't. You just get ignored. Why? Because I'm just going to let you finish looking at what you're looking at, or you know, if I'm reading an email from work and I'll go, you know what, this boy, I'm telling you, he's going to be fired. He has got to pay. Oh, okay, so he sent it out. All right. Connie eventually just tunes me out. Why? Because if everything is skyrocketing blood pressure to, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you eventually, and so then I can get offended. You know what, this boy, this and that, and when she doesn't acknowledge me, it's like, oh, you don't even care that I'm and so now it becomes a contention point between us because I've trained her, just be patient, it's a crisis, but it's just, we don't have all the facts yet. It's probably not that big of a crisis. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying?
I was going to say what you just said at the end about you train people in how to respond to you. And like he said, they just stop responding. And at that point, like he said, offense comes in and all of these other things. But you've got to take responsibility for how you've trained people, because after a while, they don't want to get drawn in anymore. And so they just, no, just give it some time. They'll come back around. It's no big deal. Oh, I had the wrong information. And again, this goes back to why it's so important to make sure you have all the information before you speak, because you're training people on how to respond or communicate with you, even how to listen to you, how much they should pay attention to what you have to say based on the accuracy of what you're communicating.
That's true, man, that's true. It's good. Number 4, y'all handle a little bit more? Yeah. We're not going to do all 12 tonight, but we'll maybe go through 5. This is a big one. This is me. Ineffective communication style number 4, the processor. The processor. The processor wrestles complex decisions and discussions down internally. The processor wrestles complex decisions and discussions down internally, usually over a period of time. The processor wrestles complex decisions and discussions down internally, usually over a period of time. During these times, they, here we go, make discoveries. Give objections. Become an enemy of their own thoughts. And make adjustments to their thinking. During these times, they make discoveries, give objections, become an enemy of their own thoughts, and make adjustments. So the processor wrestles complex decisions and discussions down internally, usually over a period of time. During this time that they're processing it internally, they make discoveries, they give objections, they become an enemy of their own thoughts, they make adjustments. Now, it's what Connie was just saying. That's what we want people to do. We want people to thoroughly think things through before they speak. Pastor Mike, what's the problem? The problem is this. When they finally go public, they operate from the position of their conclusions, not their process. When they finally go public, they operate from the position of their conclusions, not their process. Why is this a problem? A, processors become offended when people try to take the same road that they have taken in their thinking. Processors become offended when people try to take the same road they're thinking. Let me give you a perfect example. Let's say I'm thinking about moving a staff member to another department. And I'm thinking about this for 2 days. We have a need over in Department A. I got a guy in Department B. We've kind of got some extra people in Department B. If I move them over to Department A, that'd probably be the thing. No, because he doesn't get along with the other people in Department A. And we don't need to inherit drama. We finally got Department A at peace. Okay, maybe if I move him from Department B over to Department C and then move the guy from C to A, well, that's not going to work because that's a guy and a female. That's not going to work together there. We need to do, okay. If I can, and I'll go through this whole process. But when I come home and go public with it, I say, hey, I'm thinking about moving Jimmy over to Department E. Well, now what about, and now I get offended because I've had all this time to think this through. And if she asked the same question, she has the same first question I did. Well, wouldn't that be a guy? I've already, look, see, listen, why do you always do that? I know that, but listen, here's what you know. Because I've had 2 days to work through it in my brain. And when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking because I've already thought it all through. But I don't give you, I'm already 10 levels off my first idea. I had an idea that I knew would work. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, well, that's not going to work. And God forbid somebody else brings up an idea that I've already had and they get dismissed as stupid, but it wasn't stupid when I thought it was a workable idea 6 hours earlier. Only by pride comes contention. Mm-hmm. You got something?
No.
Okay. They get offended. B, here's the second thing that happens. B, they become impatient when others need time to get up to speed. They become impatient when others need time to get up to speed. You lay on somebody your 20-minute conclusion after 6 days of thinking and wonder why they're not on board yet. Are you ready to rock and roll? Wait a minute, Bubba, you've had 6 days to think this through. And now you're talking about, yeah, let's just go ahead and sell the car. Wait, hold up. They become impatient when other needs time to get up to speed. Up to speed in a couple areas. Informationally, logically, and emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Informationally, logically, and emotionally. When you do this, you rob people of the dignity that they have to be able to think and feel. Let's say I think, okay, here's a good one. Let's say I don't think we're going to go see Connie's family during Christmas. We always go at Christmas. And I say, I'm thinking about this, I don't know if we're going to be able to make it this year because we've got the trip at the beginning of December, then we've got the 7-year anniversary celebration. That's going to be a lot. Then I've got to go to Eagles, Sons and Daughters meeting, and then we've got to get ready for Vision Max. And we're really only going to have a little bit of a break, and I'd like to be home to preach that day, and it's going to be kind of bummy. I know Olivia's going to be bummed out. But I'll think this thing through for a couple days. Well, maybe we can go up in May, and blah, 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 and this, that, this. So I think it all through, and then lay it on Connie. Yeah, I've been thinking about maybe not going home to your parents for Christmas. But I've already processed through the disappointments and how it can still be good because we didn't have this, and yeah, I know we're not going to see him, but maybe we can make this trip here and all that. But it's like, when I lay on her the conclusion of my thought, without even giving her the dignity of being sad about the sad part. Because, see, I got to the sad part too. Well, that's really going to be bad not to be able to see your family. Man. But, see, I got a chance to process through it. See, I was on my way to a meeting, had the sad thought, wow, but after the meeting thought, well, you know what, maybe that's not so bad, but I don't even give her the 2 hours. Are you lost into what I'm trying to say?
It's interesting because, like you said, generally speaking, or generically speaking, there's some of these that men fall into more so than women and vice versa. And I believe that this may be a generally more of a male type thing because women, being emotional beings, need that time to process. And it doesn't mean to let your emotions be out of control and whatnot, but we are emotional beings and feel and think, and so that time to process is so important. And sometimes men, even though that they've thought through it before, kind of rush through the emotional factor of it. But it's important, be it man or woman or whatever, just to give that opportunity to process through, to think through, even to say things like, I understand that you may be disappointed in this. If you've gone through that in your mind already, be prepared that they'll probably feel the same way. So giving those type of things of, I understand that it's going to be disappointing. I understand maybe we can do it, versus just dropping it and, you know, kind of like dropping the bomb or whatever, just saying it and putting it out there and not allowing that time to process or to be upset and rush them through that process.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Can I give the third one? I think we'll finish here.
5.
I'm saying this is number 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so number 1, the processor gets offended because other people try to go down the same road. Number 2, they become impatient when other people need time to get up to speed informationally, logically, and emotionally. Number 3 here. The processors rob themselves of the power of multiple minds. What do I mean by that? Processors assume that there's no way they could have missed something in their processing. They rob themselves of the power of multiple minds. You know, it says where there's no counsel, purposes are frustrated, but when the multitude of counselors, they're established. When I begin to process through, not going to Ohio for Christmas, what we're going to do, we'll make a trip at the end of January, we've got this, we've got that, it's going to be disappointing, but this will be fine, we'll do some videos, it'll be cool, we'll still have Christmas here, maybe we can do this, blah, 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 and then we can go. And so I get to a conclusion of a thing and then lay that on Connie. When I become impatient and not involve her in the process, I'm assuming that I didn't miss another option along the way. When the truth of the matter is, she may go, well, you know, why don't we do this? Why don't we just do Thanksgiving and not do that January trip? But if you're operating from a conclusion that you've already thought it through, you could end up missing out on a huge jewel of insight that you never even would have had. So here's what you have to do. Processors need to do this. give a brief overview of how you've come to where you are, what your journey was. That's huge. A brief overview of how you've gotten there. I don't just say, I think we're not going to go to Christmas, Ohio for Christmas. We're going to go probably, spring break. You can't just lay that out. Not when somebody's emotions and family and big subjects like that are involved. Regardless of even if you're right. Here's the way to handle that. Give a brief overview. Well, I've been thinking about Christmas. And I've been thinking about Ohio. Where should we go? And da-da-da. I want to go. I think it's important that we go, but here's what I was thinking. We've got Vision Max, we've got this, we've got that, we've got this, we've got to move this, we've got to do that. So I was thinking in my brain, well, if we don't go then, I know your parents are going to be bummed and the kids are going to be bummed, so maybe we should do this, da-da-da. I'm now bringing them up to speed. I'm not speaking from a conclusion. I'm saying, here's where I've been in my mind. The second thing you have to do is you have to invite insight from the listener. Don't speak from your conclusion. Share your thought process and say, what do you think? Why? I'm trying to be a good talker by thoroughly thinking through everything before I speak, but I'm also not trying to be a dictator. So I'm saying, this is where I see, what do you see? I'm inviting insight. Number 3, allow the listener to process and respond. Allow the listener to process and respond. And if you're the listener, process and respond. Don't just shut it down. Give the credit to the fact that maybe this person's thought it through. See, as wrong as it would be for me to give the conclusion and not let her process, it's equally wrong for her to say, what you're saying is stupid, without thinking, wait a minute, maybe Mike has thought about this. Hey, I don't think we can go for Christmas. I think of this, da-da-da-da. I was thinking this, da-da, maybe we go spring break, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of where I'm at. She can't say to me, well, that's dumb, because she just got it in 30 seconds. I've been thinking about it for 6 days. What she needs to say is, well, that's a possibility. Let me kind of think it through. That at least gives the dignity that I put all this thought into it. Mm-hmm. And you just don't tell me I'm an idiot right off the bat. If you're going to tell your husband he's an idiot, slowly, gently, preferably right after a bath or something, tell him he's an idiot. Just generally, when you're smelling good. You got something?
I was just going to say, it's so funny because I had written a note.
Take a bath?
No. Oh, that too. But when you were talking about have to invite insight from the listener, I was going to talk about the responsibility of the listener to allow the person to speak through and not just shut them down as soon as they say, I was thinking about not making the trip to Christmas, and you just shut them down completely. And communication takes a communicator or a transmitter and a receiver. And as the listener, you've got to allow them to speak what they have to say, because you're going to cause a lot of strife and offense and things like that if you always constantly cut them off and not give them the opportunity. Now, you may have something to add to it and give another thought and insight to it, but allow them to have the dignity of saying what they're going to say and not just become an emotional basket case because it wasn't something you wanted to hear. And you, especially in marriage, but even in any relationship, you've got to work to communicate and to actively listen and to with dignity, or you have a responsibility as the listener, and then to communicate back. If you just say whatever, that's fine because you're upset, that's going to hurt the person that's trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
You can't just shut them down and, and this is something that Mike and I have gone through, where sometimes it'll be difficult for me to give an answer, and I'll just say, well, that's fine. And that's fine isn't an answer.
Yeah, what used to happen in a beginning relationship is she would just walk out of the room. I'm still trying to lay out my 6 days and explain where I've been and what I've thought, and it was just like, I was like, I guess we're done. So I guess we're not going, what? We're going to Ohio? I mean, it was just like, it was over. It was like, that was the end of the discussion. And that was her defense mechanism from, I'm not going to sit here and, like it's like a pregnant woman getting off the table. Like if I leave this bed, then all this pain going on, it will stay in the hospital room. It doesn't stay in the hospital room. But I noticed that my defense mechanism would be that when I would throw out something, that I've had time to process that she didn't instantly, with wagging tail, just say, oh, that's so smart, that's so sweet, da-da-da. But when she would bring up objections and the same thoughts I had 2 hours earlier about what wouldn't work, and she would say, well, I don't know about that. No, I've already thought that through. Listen, what I'm trying to say is, da-da-da. Yeah, but did you think about that? No, I'm just bringing up some idiot thing because I didn't think about it. I would be so offended that she would not just give me the credit that I had thought it through. I would say, you know what, fine, we'll stick with whatever the plan is. And so both of us have aborted the transmission and receiving.
No, go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to give a brief overview and outline your process. You want to invite the listener to give their insight. The listener needs to process and respond. And number 4, the talker needs to be open to new insight. The processor person, the person that's talking, needs to be open to new insight. And finally, number 5, finish processing together. Mm-hmm. You bring to it what you're at, where you're at so far. Be real careful bringing conclusions to your mate. Just bring where you are in the process. Now, if you don't do this right, here are the consequences. A, like Connie was saying, people will shut down because they know there's no room for discussion. You have to be careful if you're a processor because you'll intimidate everybody that they'll know. Don't even say anything because the decision's been made. That when I start saying, you know, I've been thinking, I've been thinking, it's already over. And you can think through so much that you dig in, this is what we're doing. And you'll actually train your spouse or your children, or you'll train them, listen, don't even bring, it's, and that's when you get, okay. What are you talking about, okay? Because really, I don't want Connie to say okay. I don't want her to give in, I want her to agree. And I noticed she was giving in. And I was like, why are you giving in? But I finally had to own, I'll tell you why she's giving in, because she's just learned the quicker I give in, the quicker we can move on. Because there's no bringing up any other thought with this. We are apparently not going to Ohio. You got something?
No.
Okay.
No,
You sure?
No, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Well, you raised your pen
Oh,
like...
sorry.
No, that's the universal sign. You went...
Yeah. Sorry. I was kind of like, that's
pointing,
good.
that's me. You're
No,
like,
no,
that's what you
good.
do.
I
That's what
said-
you're saying. That's what you do.
No,
I know
I said
your heart.
that's
I know your
good.
heart. You can't judge me. Just kidding. And finally, B, the second consequence, is you'll find that you'll create the need to raise objections unnecessarily. You'll raise objections unnecessarily. You'll find little faults and points in the thing that don't even really matter just because you weren't included in the process. In other words, I may have a good idea, my idea may be what we need to go to, but if I've not opened up the door properly to communicate with Connie, she'll just throw roadblocks in front of it just to throw them up there. Yeah, so I figured we wouldn't go in Ohio, in Christmas, but we would go later on. Well, I guess I don't need those Christmas dresses that I bought. What are you talking about? Oh, you know about those Christmas dresses. Yeah, I do, but I mean, but it doesn't necessarily mean I've got the bad idea. I mean, maybe I got a good idea. Yeah, but one has gloves, and gloves you don't need in Florida, so. So you're saying she might have to wear it without the gloves? Whatever, just keep going, just keep going. That creates frustration because over the gnat, over the speck, you're derailing the whole thing. See, the camel, Jesus said you can strain a gnat and swallow a camel. The camel makes a lot of sense, but you'll zero in on the, well, whatever, it's like $16 for the gloves, but whatever. What are you talking about, $16 for the gloves? Well, I was just saying, I had gloves, and it was just a thing because I had a dress like that when I was little, but whatever. Okay, Connie, she can wear the gloves. What was it? No, she's not going to wear them down here. I don't want the kids to sweat, and then the sweat, and it gets in the wool. And it's just... You are not serious. We're derailing this over gloves. That's not a real example, but that's how stuff gets. And so the whole is very good. But because I'm offended because I feel I'm being dictated to, I'll purposely try to throw sabotage and point out weaknesses in it when I actually think it's a good idea, but I'm offended that it wasn't processed through with me right.
good.
Amen.
Amen.
That's 4. We got 8 more to go. We'll pick up with them next week.
Praise God.
And if you haven't seen your